The Debt Demolisher TV with Sophia Melone.
Hi everyone, it's Sophia Melonē, the Debt Demolisher, here to bring you the tools, tips, and tricks that help you manage your financial baggage the right way. What an honor and privilege it is to be before you all for yet another episode dropped here on the Debt Demolisher TV, where today I'm going to be breaking down the major differences between the student loan debt cancellation and the public service loan forgiveness program. There has been so much talk in the media around student loan forgiveness, debt relief, public service loan forgiveness, limited waiver, and a lot of you guys have been having a lot of questions. So I'm going to go over the top 10 questions that people have related to both of these instances, and I want you to pay very close attention, and also make sure that you like, make sure that you subscribe, and make sure that you hit the notification bell so that way you can be up to date on any time the next update is going to be released here on the channel. So if you're ready, let's go. So much. How do we get started? So how do you get started with the one-time forgiveness? I literally was just talking about that. So you want to check your eligibility. So the first thing that I would do is I would go get a hold of my most recent tax returns, and I would look at line 1, and I would look at my tax filing status. If you're head of household or if you are married filing jointly, line 1 has to be less than $250,000. If you are single or if you are married filing separately, line 1 has to be less than $125,000. If you look at your tax returns for tax years 2021 or 2020, depending on which one you have, you want to look at those. And then if you meet the criteria there, then I would go ahead into logging into my FSA ID account. If you don't already have one, you need to set one up, and then make sure that you opt in for the notification so that you can be informed when the application will go live. For public service loan forgiveness purposes, again, you can start that at any time. Because it's so pressing for the limited time waiver, that's allowing certain consolidations to happen. It's also allowing for prior payments to be able to count, even partial payments to be able to count. You really want to get your public service loan forgiveness forms if you qualify for that particular program, and take advantage of that. And you could do that right now if you wanted to. What about 2022 income? So according to the Department of Education's website right now, they said that they're basing the one-time relief only on 2021 or 2020 income. So only 2021 or 2020 income. Now, I know that this application, once they stand it up, people will be able to apply until December 31st of 2023. So I know this question will maybe, well, by then, 2022's tax returns will have already been filed. So what are they going to ask for? More than likely, we'll be able to see once the application stands up. But they specifically said 2021 or 2020 is what it's going to be based on. So I think that's regardless of when you submit your application, it'll be based on those 2 tax years, because that is when the pandemic was heavily impacted. I think I had a Pell Grant. How do I check? So if you think you had a Pell Grant, you want to log into your FSA ID account. You want to log in to Federal Student Aid, go to studentaid.gov and click on FSA ID. Log in. You'll be able to log in, and you can create an account. Or if you already have your account, just log in. You're going to view your aid summary. When you click on your aid summary, it'll give you all of the listings of all of the aid that you received. If any of those years said that you received Pell Grant, then boom, you're good. Will student loans for this fall be forgiven? So according to the Department of Education, for the one-time relief, your student loan had to have been dispersed by June 30th, 2022. So if your loans have been dispersed after that, then those won't qualify for the relief. But if you're in school now, and if you've had loans prior to, then whatever loans you've taken out thus far by June, if the disbursement date was by June 30th, 2022, then that will be a part of the pool for forgiveness, but not anything after that. So for the one-time relief, it doesn't matter what your payment status is. It doesn't matter your school status. You could be in school, deferred, forbearance. It's based on income. Is the loan forgiveness going to be taxed or no? So this goes to both. So the one-time student debt relief
the 20,000 or the 10,000 is not going to be subject to tax for federal purposes. However, it could be taxable on the state side, but you have to check with your state tax office to see how they treat forgiveness that is not taxed federally wise. Now, from my understanding of tax, I used to be a tax auditor, but I do know that taxes are different depending on where you live, because the states can create their own tax laws and have their own rules around it. But most states follow federal. Even when you think about your state filing taxes. So if you were to pull your state tax right now, if you pull the copy up, you will be able to see that 9 times out of 10 they're asking you, what is your federal AGI? Your federal AGI is your adjusted gross income. And this is a whole tax conversation that I know that y'all didn't come here for, but because this question came up, I just want to explain so you guys can get it. When they ask you for your federal adjusted gross income, that's typically when they begin to take the other deductions, or they do additions or subtractions. When you see the additions or subtractions in your state form, not federal, but in your state side of things, that's when you'll be able to see, hey, they may ask if this was forgiven, you may want to add it and it may be taxable on the state side. So again, it depends on where you live, but not only where you live, it's not going to be taxable for federal purpose, but it could be for state purposes. All right, I'm eligible for PSLF, but couldn't afford the payment repayment amount before. Should I apply now? So there's two things you want to think about. So if you are eligible and you can't afford the repayment plan, that is a very serious situation, because what you don't want to do is consolidate the loan and then can't afford it, and then you end up going in default. Because when it comes to public service loan forgiveness, defaulted loans cannot be eligible. So the only way that you can be eligible for public service loan forgiveness is if you get it back in good standing. So if you feel like you're not going to be able to afford it, then that's something that you really want to take into consideration. But let me share this. If you qualify for the one-time student debt relief, whether it be the 20,000 or the 10,000, what's going to happen is once that relief gets applied, more than likely you're probably still going to have some student loan balances left, right? Because if you're saying based on this, you're not going to be able to afford the repayment amount after consolidation. Yeah, because it could go up, not only because of the larger amount and it's one payment, but also because of the type of repayment plan that you'll have to choose. And depending on if you have to consolidate to get the Parent Plus loan in there, then that means you're going to have to choose the ICR, which is the least favorable type of repayment plan, essentially. So when you look at that, you also want to say, okay, once this debt relief gets applied, they're going to apply it to your loans in a specific order. Once everything gets applied and you still have a balance, what's going to end up happening is your loan is going to be reamortized. So if you've ever heard of the term like recasting, and this is more so like for mortgage talk, because sometimes people go in and they have their loans recasted, meaning they go in and they just have them put more money down on the table without refinancing, and then they just kind of recast the loan and just it'll change everything, because the interest that you get charged is based on the balance that you have. So if you've been assessed interest based on that prior balance, then that can make your payment pretty much, higher. But once they reamortize it, that could actually bring your balance lower. So let's say, for instance, you owe $30,000 on your student loans, even after you've consolidated it, but you qualify for the $10,000 relief. So if you qualify for the $10,000 relief, once they apply everything, that'll bring your balance hypothetically down to now $20,000. So instead of you getting the payment plan based on a $30,000 loan, it's now going to be based on the $20,000, which could essentially lower your monthly payment. So what I would suggest and recommend that you do is, again, before you go in and reapply, before you go through the consolidation process, if you need to, again, utilize the loan simulator that they have. What qualifies you for PSLF? So what qualifies you for public service loan forgiveness is you having worked for a qualified employer. So it has to be a government entity, whether it be federal, state, local, tribal government. It has to be a 501c3 nonprofit organization, or it could be a private nonprofit organization that is tax exempt. That is tax exempt. Do you know when the forbearance and deferment will be included in the count? So from what I've learned and from what I understand, they're actively working to get that updated. So it could take them some time. So that's why the Department of Education has been stressing and urging folks to just get their forms in. One of the things that the senior advisor clearly said was that don't worry about them doing their part in terms of like counting and all of that. They say, get your forms in. Get your completed forms in. Cover as many periods as you can from 2007 up until now. Get your forms in. You just have to make sure that you're working for a qualified employer at that time. How soon can we apply? You can apply for PSLF at any time, but for the one-time student aid, for the one-time debt relief, you'll have to wait until the application stands up, which will be in early October. If you have two loans, subsidized and unsubsidized, can you get the $10K canceled per loan? It's one. So it's not going to be by loan type, it's by borrower. So whatever your overall balance is essentially how they're going to apply it. So hopefully you guys can see this. So it's saying right here, how will debt relief be applied to my loans? So if you have multiple loans, like the example that was just given around subsidized versus unsubsidized, regardless of the types of loans that you have, it's going to be by borrower. And this is how they are going to apply it. So if you have multiple loans, they're going to apply it in this order. Defaulted Department of Education held loans first. So if you have any defaulted loans, and this is for the one-time debt relief, either the 10K or the 20K, defaulted ED loans, that's where the money will be applied first. After that, it'll be defaulted commercial FFEL program loans, which is your federal family education loan programs. Then if anything is left after that, it'll be applied to any non-defaulted direct loan programs and FFEL program loans that are held by the Department of Education. Then if any funds are left over after that, it will be applied to your Perkins loans that are held by the Department of Education. So that's what that means. So if you have multiple types of loans, and again, when it comes to subsidized versus unsubsidized, that essentially falls under the direct loan program. So even if you go up, I'm going to show you right here. You see this? William Ford direct loan programs include subsidized loans, unsubsidized loans, Parent Plus loans, graduate loans, consolidated loans. Again, as long as the underlying loan that was pulled out or that was dispersed was done prior to June 30th, 2022. For public service forgiveness, what is the temporary waiver for? So the temporary waiver is such an amazing thing. It's allowing some of those stipulations and those hard rules that they had under the regular public service loan forgiveness to temporarily be lifted to allow more people to be able to receive the relief during this time because of all of the stipulations and all of the challenges that were happening as a result of COVID-19. So let's talk about the original public service loan forgiveness criteria prior to this temporary waiver. Prior to the temporary waiver, the regular public service loan forgiveness, in order for you to be eligible for public service loan forgiveness, you had to have worked for a qualifying employer and have been making qualified payments. Your qualified payments are making the full amount of what your student loan payment was due at that particular time. So if your student loans payment was $500 and you had to pay the $500 in order for it to count as a qualified payment. So in addition to working for a qualified employer, you have to have 120 of qualified payments, and you have to still be working for the qualified employer at the time of forgiveness. So what the limited waiver is now allowing is that it's lifting the restriction on the qualified payment. So even if you made a partial payment, any type of payment that you made on your loan will now count as a qualified payment. Any periods of forbearance, long-term forbearance or or deferment will count as qualified payments, except if you're in school. In-school status does not count. Only if you were in forbearance or deferment for any other type of reason, financial hardship, whatever the case may be. Those periods will now count. All of these periods where COVID-19 has happened and the repayment pause was in effect, all of those periods will now count as qualified payments. Another benefit of the temporary waiver is that you can submit your applications now, and you may no longer be working for a qualified employee at this particular point, but you can get the forgiveness because you have submitted your application covering the periods in which you actually worked for a qualified employer. And during that time, you may have made partial payments or whatever the case may be. They'll be able to see all of that behind the scenes. But as long as your application is in covering the periods that you need to cover, if you no longer work for a qualified employer and you submit your application under the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness form, you can receive the forgiveness. You can receive the forgiveness even though you no longer work for the employer. Here is the prime example. One of the biggest hindrances that keeps people from being able to buy a home is their student loan balance. Their student loan balance. And I was sharing in this 3-part series that I did on my TikTok page a while back, I had shared that I had a YouTube subscriber that did this very thing. My YouTube subscriber, when the debt relief was announced, the temporary limited waiver, the limited waiver was announced on October the 6th, 2021. October 6th, 2021. This particular subscriber was a former teacher, retired, no longer working, retired, 26 years in the school system, served, had all of these loans. She had over $165,000 in student loan debt. So she saw that this relief was announced, or that this temporary forgiveness was being announced, and she said that she got inspired to do something about it as a result of watching my videos, because I talk about student debt relief and I talk about debt freedom, debt elimination on my YouTube channel, the Debt Demolisher TV. So she took some action. She did the research. She found out about the temporary expanded. She submitted her application. She submitted her form. And do you all know, January she submitted the form. Within a couple of months, she got a notice back. $165,000 gone. Gone. Debt balance gone. Finito. And then shortly after that, she got a credit report update showing that the balances were paid in full and it was no longer on her credit report. So even though she was retired, the limited waiver benefited her in this instance because she could receive it even though she was no longer working for the qualified employer. So that's the advantage of the temporary waiver and why it's so imperative that people get their applications in by October the 31st. I see a lot of people on lives that don't know what they're talking about. This woman knows. Oh, wow. Thank you, Leaping Lizzie. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
The Debt Demolisher TV with Sophia Melonē. The Debt Demolisher TV with Sophia